I want to tell the story that Ara's bold behavior has revealed the past wicked behavior that Hanjinta had hidden. They were standing in the kitchen of the restaurant courtyard house filled with morning sunlight. Ara was holding something tightly in her small hand. When Uri asked what it was, Ara opened her hand with an innocent face. There was a sparkling tie pin in Ara's hand. It wasn't a toy for a child to play with, so he asked Ara with curiosity, "Ara, where did you get that?" There was a slight tension in their voices. Ara answered without hesitation, "I found it in Mom's room. It was sparkling, so I brought it." Looking at the tie pin, he felt complicated emotions. He held the tie pin in his hands and looked at it for a while. The cold touch of metal was transmitted through his fingertips. "We have to ask Mom what this thing is." Nodding her head, they went to Cha Sun-young's room together. Cha Sun-young held the tie pin in her hand and fell into silence for a moment. Old memories rushed in like a flood. While looking at the tie pin, she thought that it might be the last memento left by Jun Sun-jung. Cha Sun-young cautiously said, "It might be something your mother left behind." Her voices were cautious. "Why did Mom leave this thing?" Cha Sun-young sighed deeply and lowered her head. "I don't remember exactly, but there must be some important meeting. Sun-jung always left behind something of importance. Do you know who the owner of this tie pin is?" Uri asked. "I'm not sure. Maybe it's your biological father," Cha Sun-young said, bowing her head as if lost in thought. In the quiet afternoon at Haedeul Hospital, they were deeply immersed in contemplation in the examination room, holding the tie pin in his hands. The cold touch of metal was transmitted through his fingertips, but the meaning that this object gave was too heavy. At that moment, Jin Soo Ji knocked on the door of the examination room and came in. "Oppa, you don't look good," Jin Soo Ji said with worried look in her eyes. He looked down at the tie pin for a moment and let out a deep sigh before answering. "Soo-ji, Ara found this tie pin in Mom's room." Jin Soo Ji furrowed her brows as she looked at the tie pin. "It feels familiar, like I've seen it somewhere." "Oppa, what is this?" Mom said it might be my biological father's tie pin. He handed the tie pin to Soo-ji and said it might be a clue to find Dad. Jin Soo Ji held the tie pin in her hand and looked at it for a while. The cold touch of metal was transmitted through Jin Soo Ji's fingertips. "This tie pin, it feels really familiar. I think I've seen it somewhere." He looked at Jin Soo Ji's face filled with a confused expression, and her curiosity grew even more. "This small item could completely change my life." At that moment, the door opened and Han Jin-tae entered. His face was filled with complex emotions. "What are you talking about?" Jin Soo Ji looked at Han Jin-tae as she put the necktie pin in her pocket. "It's not that important." Han Jin-tae nodded at Jin Soo Ji's words but couldn't hide his suspicious gaze. "If it's not a big deal, you should tell me too." Soo-ji and Uri were momentarily taken aback, but they tried to maintain their composure. "Chairman, do you know anything about this necktie pin?" she asked as she took out the necktie pin. Han Jin-tae looked at the necktie pin and fell silent for a moment. A dark shadow appeared on his face. "I don't really know. Where did this come from?" Soo-ji and Uri became even more curious at Han Jin-tae's words. It was a deal our mother had. Han Jin-tae closed the office door and sighed. He put his hands on the desk and leaned forward. His mind was in turmoil since he saw the necktie pin. "If the owner of the necktie pin turns out to be me, everything will be over." Han Jin-tae made a firm decision not to let that happen. He needed to find a way to deal with the necktie pin without anyone finding out. Han Jin-tae headed towards a small park near the hospital, making various plans in his mind. He needed a way to deal with this necktie pin without anyone finding out. Sitting on the bench in the park, Han Jin-tae let out a deep sigh and took out his cell phone. He found the phone number with a few touches and dialed it with trembling hands. "Hello, it's me. We need to meet right away." Han Jin-tae spoke in a low and firm voice. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone before a response came. "What's going on? It's been a while. I don't have a time for a long conversation. It's something important. Let's meet at the park right now." Han Jin-tae finished speaking and hung up the phone. A few minutes later, a man approached the park. He was a middle-aged man with dark and sharp eyes. As soon as Han Jin-tae saw him, he stood up from the bench. "Long time no see. What's going on?" the man asked. Han Jin-tae calmly spoke. "I have a favor to ask. I need you to steal and get rid of a tie-pin." The man smiled and looked at Han Jin-tae. "It's been a while since I gave you a job. The prices have gone up a lot during that time. It won't be as easy to work as before." Han Jin-tae was momentarily taken aback by the man's words but soon responded calmly. "I'll pay you enough. Just make sure to do the job properly." The man nodded in agreement. "Alright, then I'll raise the cost and handle it. But let me make it clear, I will definitely complete the task I'm given, so I expect to be compensated adequately." Han Jin-tae nodded and replied, "Of course, the cost is not a problem. Just make sure this job doesn't fail. Finding and getting rid of the tie-pin is crucial." The man smiled as he listened to Han Jin-tae's words. "Alright, let's plan it out in detail. Tell me where the tie-pin is and how we can approach it." Han Jin-tae looked around and began explaining in a low voice. Han Jin-tae watched him disappear and tried to shake off his anxiety deep in his heart. If this job succeeds, everything will return to normal. Carefully infiltrating the hospital, he skillfully avoided the security system according to the pre-information and headed towards the examination room. The man accurately found the tie-pin Uri had placed in the office drawer. When he unlocked the drawer and opened it, a faint smile appeared on his face as he held the tie-pin in his hand. "It's finally over," the man muttered quietly as he locked the drawer again. He erased all the evidence and quickly left the hospital. The next morning, Uri entered the examination room and opened the drawer to check the tie-pin. However, as soon as Uri opened the drawer, Uri were shocked to find nothing. However, the man had already left the hospital and the tie-pin in his hand. No one knew the impact that small object would bring. While Han Jin-tae's plan was progressing successfully, the hidden truth behind it was always ready to be revealed. Jin Soo Ji stood in the hospital corridor at sunset, looking at her phone and lost in deep thought. "Wait a minute." Soo Ji suddenly raised her head and caught Uri's attention. "I have a picture of the tie-pin I took. Maybe we can find the clue in the picture." "Really?" Uri asked in surprise. "Can I see the picture?" Jin Soo Ji opened her phone and found the picture. "Yeah, here it is. Maybe there's something unusual in this picture." Jin Soo Ji enlarged the picture of the tie-pin and examined it closely. The tie-pin in the picture had a delicate design and a unique pattern engraved on it. Jin Soo Ji focused on the pattern, but Jin Soo Ji paused for a moment, then her eyes widened. "Yeah, this tie-pin is exactly the same as the one director Han Jin-tae used to wear frequently in the past. That pattern was exactly on the tie-pin." Uri were momentarily shocked. "So does that mean this tie-pin belongs to Chairman Han Jin-tae?" Jin Soo Ji nodded. "It's highly likely. It's too similar to the tie-pin director Han Jin-tae used to wear frequently in the past." "Then, what is the connection between the tie-pin and director Han Jin-tae? Maybe we need to find out why he had this tie-pin and why he tried to hide it." In that moment, Uri's head suddenly started to ache as if they were about to explode. Uri tried to endure the pain by holding his head. Then a memory started to come to his mind. It was a blurry but clear clues began to torment him. Uri endured the pain and continued to search his memories. That tie-pin, it was the tie-pin father used to wear, and the face was Han Jin-tae.